All right, good morning, folks. This is Jason with the Primal Outdoors channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Vatrer 460 amp hour lithium battery that I just installed into Sasquatch. But before we get too much into this review, let's talk about the specs and features. The Vatrer 12 volt 460 amp hour LiFePO battery is engineered for high capacity energy storage in off-grid RV and solar applications. It uses grade A lithium iron phosphate LiFePO cells, which offer high thermal stability, excellent cycle life, and consistent performance over time. The battery is configured in a 4S2P layout, meaning 4 cells in series and 2 in parallel. This provides a nominal voltage of 12.8 volts and a total capacity of 468 amp hours, equating to approximately 5,888 watt hours of usable energy. A 250 amp built-in battery management system monitors performance, prevents overcharging, short circuits, and thermal issues, and includes a low temperature cutoff for protection during cold weather operation. The system also supports Bluetooth connectivity, allowing real-time monitoring of battery stats, voltage, current, temperature, and state of charge via a mobile app. Additional highlights include max continuous output of 3,200 watts, life cycle of over 5,000 cycles at 80% depth of discharge, integrated cell balancing for long-term health and efficiency, and maintenance-free operation with rugged sealed case. This feature set makes it especially well suited for power-hungry setups like van conversions, off-grid cabins, or high-capacity solar arrays. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about the installation because everybody's installation is going to be slightly different. It's really going to just depend on your build. But back when I did my original build in Sasquatch in 2020, I put two 100 amp hour lithium batteries in the van, and that was sufficient for what I had in the van at the time. I only really was running my refrigerator, a max air fan, my Propex heater, and some lighting. And the 200 amp hours actually worked out quite well. But over the years, I've added a few more things like the Starlink and another refrigerator that I use full time as a freezer in the van. And that kind of added quite a bit more demand on my power system. And with the 200 amp hours, I was finding that I was pretty much having to charge every day or I would run out of power. So when Vatrer reached out to the channel and wanted to send me a 460 amp hour battery, I was pretty on board for that because I really did need more power for Sasquatch. Like I said, the Starlink is probably the most power hungry of everything. It runs about 3 to 4 amps when it's running. And when I'm doing work like this, I'm often running it all day long to upload content, research things, do a lot of stuff like that. So having 460 amp hours is going to be a huge upgrade because obviously that's over double what I had before in the van. Now getting into the install, it was a little bit of a challenge with my van because when I originally did the build, I buried those two 100 amp hour batteries into a cabinet and they weren't accessible. I should have thought about that a little bit better, thinking that I would probably have to upgrade in the future. Now, what I ended up having to do is I had to kind of cut out and access those batteries and get them pulled out. Now this battery is bigger than my two 100 amp hour batteries, but it's not that much bigger. I'm actually kind of impressed that they were able to squeeze 460 amp hours into a case of this size. If you actually look at my two 100 amp hour batteries next to the this 460 amp hour battery, you can actually see that it's not really that much bigger. It is a little bit taller, so I wasn't able to shove it in as deeply where the other batteries were, but at this point I was able to kind of shift some things around and move my freezer, because I actually had my freezer coming out the back, and I kind of changed some things up to where now the freezer comes out the forward, and then the battery, the new 460 amp hour battery, can sit in the back, and that's going to work out for now. Now, as far as hooking up the battery, I was really pretty impressed with the build of this battery. I really liked the positive negative connection terminals. They're very stout. And I also liked the fact that this battery has an on and off switch, so that way you can actually turn the battery off. So while you're connecting everything up, you don't have to worry about arcing anything during the setup. So you can have that turned off. And I just felt like that was just an extra little thing that made things a little bit easier. Now, I'm not a channel that wants to tear apart batteries. Like if you see a lot of battery review channels, they'll disassemble batteries and tear them apart. wouldn't do that because honestly I wanted to use this battery in the van, but this is in a really nice metal case and I was able to just unscrew the top and pull it off and look inside, and to me it looks like it's pretty well built. Everything seems to be well soldered, well connected. The BMS seems to be secure and everything seems to be well built inside the case. So I feel like this battery is a nice design, and the fact that they are using grade A cells in the battery just gives me that extra confidence that this is going to work for me for a long time. Now we'll get into the pros and cons, and I've already touched on some of the strengths of the battery. And of course, the biggest thing is 460 amp hours. That's going to help me out in a big way. I really like the rugged build, as I've already mentioned before, and I like the app that comes with it. It connects up really quick, and I can monitor all the stats of the battery and make sure that everything is running healthy. That's something I actually did not have with my old batteries. I could monitor it with my charging system, which would just show me percentage of charge, but I couldn't see what the cells were doing or the temperature of the battery or any of that. So I think that's going to be really handy down the line. The downside of this battery is it is heavy. It's 100 pounds. I weighed it on a scale. Now, again, it's just a bathroom scale, so not super accurate, but at least get you within a pound or two of what you're looking at. And it did come out to roughly 100 pounds. Now, if you had compared that to my 100 amp hour batteries, they came out to about 26, 27 pounds. So if you add up 4 of those, you're going to be at 100 pounds as well. But again, this is a 460 amp hour battery, so you'd really have to weigh 4.5 of those 100 amp hour batteries, which would actually put you over that. Now, the one nice thing is about this battery is it did come with some really nice handles, making it a little bit easier to move around, but you might want to have 2 people. It is, it is weighty. So getting it into the vehicle, and if you are weight conscious about your vehicle, again, that's going to be something you might want to think about. But again, for the amount of amp hours you're getting out of it, I don't think it's that bad. And then that leads me into the bulk of the battery. And again, when I compare it to my 2 100 amp hour batteries, it wasn't that much bigger, but it is a little bit bigger than those batteries. So you're also going to want to consider in your build how much space it is going to take to put the battery. But again, just thinking about the amount of amp hours you're getting, it's definitely worth it, especially I think if you are a digital nomad where you work and live out of your vehicle, and power is going to be key to you. So something I do want to touch on that's not really in the pros or cons is you're just going to have to think about your charging system if you're going to have a battery of this size. If you're a part-timer where basically you have a home base and you go back to, and then you just go out for like weekend or week-long adventures, and you're just wanting to have plenty of capacity to get you through those adventures without having to really worry too much about recharging, you'd probably be fine being able to have a good shore power charger, be able to charge at home, and then be able to take off and have the full capacity of the battery. Probably still would like to have some kind of vehicle charging or solar just to kind of top off a little bit as you're going along, but with that much capacity, you're probably going to be more than fine on short trips. But if you're like me and you live and work out of your van full time, you're not going to have that convenience of being able to go somewhere and just plug in and allow it to charge while you're not using the vehicle. You're going to have to think about charging a little bit every day. So you're going to have a pretty robust charging system. Now, my current charging system, the way I have it, is I can charge up to 55 amps when I'm driving. Now, one of the things that I had to consider while doing that is upgrading my alternator. I had to have a high output alternator for my DC to DC system to be able to pull that many amps. So that's, again, something you're going to have to think about. And then on top of that, I have solar. Now, I'm going to admit my solar system is a little bit weak at the moment. It's only 300 watts. But I do want to upgrade some of that, and I've got some videos already showing some different solar panels I plan on using in the future that will give me a little bit more watts, but at the same time they'll work better in shade, so that will help me out. The other thing is I also have shore power charging, and then I carry a small generator with me, so if I am working on days that is cloudy and my solar system is really providing me nothing, I still have my little generator that I can put out and charge the batteries as well, and that allows me to charge at 30 amps. Another consideration that I'm trying to do is have a separate MPPT controller from my shore power charging, so that way when I'm running the generator, if it is sunny and I can get solar, I want to be able to get power from the generator and power from the solar so that I can get up to say maybe 45 to 55 amps when charging on a sunny day with my generator. So anyways, I just wanted you guys to kind of think about that, because like I said, it's nice to have all these amp hours, but if you're living and working out of the vehicle full time, you are going to have to be trying to figure out how to put some of these amp hours back into your system. All right, so I've had the battery in the van now for about a little over a week, and we've had some pretty decent spring weather, which has given me a lot of sun, and I've done some errands and some exploring and driving around. And just with that, I haven't had to run my generator at all, and I've not come close to ever running out of power with the battery. And I've had some days where I've just sat and just worked all day trying to get some things done. And like I said, with my old system, I can guarantee you I would have had to run the generator at some point to get me up to, to recharge the system, or I'd get too low. Now, I can use that same amount of amp hours, but it still leaves me, 50% of the battery, so I know I don't have to worry about running out in the night. And that's where the situation was before, is if I sat all day and then I really ran my battery down to, 20% or more, I wouldn't be comfortable leaving that through the night and making sure that my refrigerators and freezer and everything worked through the night. I would probably end up running my generator to get me back up a little bit in order to make sure I was good through the night. Whereas now I can use, 150, 200 amp hours through the day working and not worry about having to run my generator. And then the next day, I may have to run the generator if I'm not going to be going anywhere, but a lot of times I'm usually going to be running some errands or doing some exploring at that point. And because I've got a pretty good charging system that puts a lot of amp hours back at it, anytime I drive, I get quite a bit of that battery charged back up. So anyways, guys, I hope you found this video a little bit helpful if you're thinking about doing a build, or maybe you already have a build and you're also thinking about upgrading your battery. Give the Vatrer batteries a look at. They do seem to be really high quality. I really do like the build. And so far, like I said, I've only had it for a week, but so far I've been really happy with it, and I really do like the app. If it is something you're interested in, definitely check down my description for any deals or sales that they're having. And again, if you enjoyed this video or found something useful out of this video, please do give me a like. Comments and questions are great, and we'll catch you guys again outside.